I decided to go to a party for men and let loose. When I came back drunk, he was waiting on doorstep. Have you ever been in a situation where you want to let loose, but you end up letting loose in the wrong places and with wrong people? I so regret the day I went to the men's party because I wanted to let loose because it destroyed the only good thing that I had with my fiancé. I would never forget his face when I came back, and the things he did made me regret ever going to that party. The alcohol that you were drinking suddenly gets out of the system right away. Have you ever had one of those nights where you just want to have some fun and let loose? Well, that's exactly what happened to me recently. I made the decision to go to a party that was specifically for men, thinking it would be a great way to have a good time and meet new people. Till this very moment, I am still in denial and can't seem to get over the fact that I had lost my fiancé because I had decided to be stupid and did something that had put my relationship in jeopardy. There is no one to blame but myself. I did all of that, and to tell the truth, I regret it, and I still want my fiancé back. I would even trade anything just to get him back to me. My fiancé, Thomas Morris, male 34, and I, female 32, met at a football match that I had gone to watch in Florida Tech Panther Stadium a few years ago. He was sitting next to me, and since I was alone, he was also alone. We ended up chatting, talking about football and general stuff. Since then, we got along. We had a lot of fun while watching the match. Another thing that made it so much fun was that we were supporting different teams, and mine won, by the way. He would complain about the cheating referee, saying he was favoring my team. Thomas was just a ball of fun and happiness. He was able to make me forget about my miserable life that I had at home for once. I'm not a person who is good at socializing, but with Thomas, it was just easy. The conversations were flowing so smoothly, and I was having a lot of fun. We exchanged numbers during the game, and from there onwards, we became inseparable friends. One thing about Thomas is that he is overprotective, and when he loves for real. He's a great guy. He's sweet, kind, and humble, but do him wrong. It would be like you had caused a commotion in hell. That guy can hold grudges, and when he avenges himself, it doesn't get really nice. You would even regret ever stepping on his foot. I had learned that when some guy, I think they knew each other from way back. That guy called him names and reminded him of the past that he had told me that he wanted to forget about. The things he did to the guy were scary. He was really heartless at that time, and for me to witness it made me kind of scared of Thomas. You know, when you witness some scary and heartless **** for the first time, you get traumatized for days or even weeks. That was me. After what Thomas did to that guy, I was traumatized and didn't want to see Thomas for a couple of days. My friendship with Thomas went on for like 7, if not 8 months, until he confessed his true feelings for me. I had seen his actions and the way he was acting when with me that he was no longer treating me as a friend. I was relieved when he eventually decided to break the confusion and confessed. At first, I was surprised I wouldn't lie. I mean, the guy is handsome and all. So I had thought that our relationship will only be a friendship. I didn't see myself as his type of girl that he would date or even propose to marry. So Thomas and I didn't date for too long. It took him like 5 or 6 months to propose. And the day he proposed, I couldn't believe it, you know. With my history of non-lasting relationships, I had really thought I had bad luck when it came to relationships because they never lasted even 6 months at least. And all the men that I had dated would break up with me for one reason. I do not meet their standards and satisfactions. I couldn't believe it. I had thought I was the one with the problem, but I wasn't. My relationship with Thomas was everything and more. It was truly a bliss, and I felt so secured and loved in him. He was my first true and genuine man that I had fallen in love with. Yes, I had my doubts about our relationship, and I had thought that maybe it wouldn't last just like my previous relationships, but it surprised me when we had lasted for years. From there, I knew that I wasn't the problem. The guys that I was dating before Thomas really ate up my self-esteem. I started looking down on myself, thinking that I would never be good enough for any man, only for God to turn the tables and give me Thomas, the best man that I had ever dated, and the man who truly loved me for me and not for what I had to offer. Thomas loved me for who I really am. We had a deep connection and chemistry that no one would actually think of. Sometimes we would act like we were siblings, and sometimes like lovers or best friends. Thomas was my go-to guy whenever I had a problem. He knew how to make me feel better when I would sometimes feel under the weather. He knew me from inside and outside. He knew me when I was happy or sad. And I had ruined all that just because of lust and desires. How could I ruin such a good thing that was going on between Thomas and I? It was really selfish of me. But one thing I would never forget is the revenge or the actions that he took when I came back from the men's party. It was something that I had never expected, and it still haunts me till today. Thomas and I would go to parties and visit new clubs or pubs. It was really a great experience to get to explore places with your partner. The relationship that I had with Thomas really meant a lot to me, and I truly regret ever going to that party, because it made me lose the only thing that mattered to me, and the only person close to my heart. I just wanted to have some fun, but I guess the fun had me instead. How could I be so stupid and careless? A few years later, our relationship was under the rock. We would argue most of the time and sometimes end up going to bed angry at each other. Mind you, we had talked about going to bed angry at each other. We had agreed that no one would go to bed angry or sad because of another person. We agreed to communicate about things that we don't like and the things that make us angry to avoid going to bed with a heavy heart. A lot was happening in our relationship to a point that I would somehow feel like I was going back to my past life, whereby I was drinking a lot, partying a lot, and had flings here and there with men. I had no control over myself, and that had started when I lost my father in a shooting that had taken place between some gangsters in the police department. My father was a cop, so he actually passed on while on duty. I was shattered when I heard about his passing, and I somehow lost myself. Another thing, Thomas was not always available since he was an event coordinator. His job demanded his most attention and time, so that kind of affected me because his events would take most of his time to a point that he wouldn't have time for me. His attention was something that I would only look at our pictures and remind myself of our old happy and less busy days. Thomas would go maybe to another city or to another country to host an event, and he would go for days, if not weeks or months. His traveling made things really hard for us, especially for me, because even our intimate moments were no longer the same. I loved Thomas a lot, and heck, I still love the guy. The relationship really meant a lot to me. It was so special. So one day when Thomas was outside the country with work, I was left in the house all alone, bored. Since I had no friends or close relatives, the house was truly boring and lonely. Thomas was the only friend I had, and he was also my best friend. I tried staying indoors the first 2 days that Thomas went on, but I couldn't stay in any more longer. So I decided to go and get some fresh air. As I was still sitting in one of the restaurants, I was approached by my long-lost gay friend. Chris, gay friend, male, 31, was actually my best friend in high school, but we lost contact when he moved to Spain for school. I was so happy to see my friend after a long time of not seeing him and not knowing how to reach out to him. I didn't regret getting out of the house that day because it made me reunite with my friend. I know that if Thomas was to learn that I had a gay friend, he would flip because in his head he believes that there's no such thing as gay, because we would be getting along with men who pretend to be women. We once had a talk about gays when we were watching some movie that had gays, and he asked a very awkward and weird question about the LGBTQ plus genders. He asked why gays or transgender don't date lesbians because gays or transgender pretend to be women, while lesbians pretend to be men. To tell the truth, I didn't know how to answer his question because I would also ask myself the same question sometimes and wouldn't get any answer. I just told him that we should actually ask someone who is a transgender or a lesbian that question because it was kind of confusing. I also wanted to know answers to that question because it was really intriguing. So Chris invited me to this party that was going to be at one of his friends' houses in Pinecrest, Florida. Since I was bored and had nothing to do in the house, I told him that I would come to the party. Later on, he sent the coordinates to the party, and I was super excited to be getting a chance to spend with my friend again. I didn't care about whose party it was or who would be on B on that party. I just wanted to have a good time with my long-lost best friend. I had made it look breathtaking and fit for the party because Chris didn't tell me the theme, so I made one myself. Mind you, that day I didn't speak with Thomas the whole day. I didn't even know when he would be coming back. If I knew that he would be home that day, I would have rejected Chris's invitation and made sure that Thomas finds me home. The only thing that was on my mind that day was partying and letting loose. I prepared for the night, and then later I went to the sent coordinates. When I got there, I just couldn't believe it. It was actually a party for men. I wished that Chris would have given me the memo at least just to know what I would be expecting, but I was glad that my outfit was fitting very well. Chris introduced me to the guys, and I would say that they were all good people, chilled and had a vibe that I needed. The party was going well, and the host was looking super handsome. You wouldn't see that he was gay. He was just like every handsome and yummy guy. The party went on. I was drinking like a fish. Not because I had problems or anything, but I just wanted to have some fun and let loose. Plus, I wanted to enjoy my time with my best friend. I had switched off my phone the minute I got into the gate. I had left home with the intention to have fun and be myself for once. I was starting to feel like I was a relative of the house furnisher when I was always in the house. The party was in full swing when I arrived. There were laughs, music, and good vibes all around. I was enjoying myself, mingling with new people and forgetting about the stress of everyday life. It felt liberating to be in the moment and embrace the carefree atmosphere. I was having so much fun and the drinks were flowing. No one was asking anyone any questions. No one cared about you or what you do. The only thing that brought us together was the party and letting loose. As the night went on, I may have gotten carried away with the excitement. I let loose and had a few too many drinks. Time seemed to fly by, and before I knew it, it was time to head home. Mind you, the time was almost after 3 in the a.m.s, meaning I had lost track of time to get home, but I didn't care because I thought that there was no one at the house. At about 4 a.m., I decided to go home. I told Chris that I was going, of which I don't think he had heard me because he was sloshed. I left and tried to drive back home. I hoped that I wouldn't find Thomas because if he saw that I was driving while in the influence of alcohol, he would get mad, and I would get in deep trouble. Little did I know that the universe and God was not actually on my side that day. When I arrived at my doorstep, I was trying to unlock the door, but I was failing dismally because of the state that I was in. The door eventually unlocked. I thought I was the one who unlocked it. But when I opened the door, I was greeted by a surprising sight. He was standing there, waiting for me. I couldn't believe my eyes. How did he know I would be coming back at this exact moment? I got medium sober at the very same moment. I didn't know that he was coming back home, and the worst part was that I didn't even bother to check my phone. I was just excited to be going to the party and getting a chance to get out of the house. I tried acting strong and looking less intoxicated, but I failed. My walking steps were evidence that I was really intoxicated. His expression was a mix of concern, anger, and disappointment. It was clear that he had been worried about me, but he was angry and disappointed in me. I felt a pang of guilt for not considering how my actions might affect him. I tried explaining to him, but he didn't want to hear anything. Instead, he left me at the kitchen doorstep and went to bed. I knew then that I was in deep trouble, and there was nothing I would say nor do that would convince him otherwise. He was angry at me. I ended up falling asleep on the couch, and I was woken by his enraged face in the morning. You know when you were highly sloshed the previous night and you wake up with a great hangover the following day? That was me. I looked at Thomas with apologizing eyes, hoping that maybe he would calm down, but it seemed like I was pouring paraffin in an already blazing flames. He asked where I was coming from, intoxicated and at midnight. I tried lying to him and told him that I was at a friend's party. I just couldn't mention that I had gone to a party that was full of men. I had thought lying to him was going to make him move on from the situation. But little did I know that the man that I was in a relationship with actually had a video of the party. He asked if we had started lying in our relationship. I was confused by his question. I tried to convince him and told him the same lie that I had already told him. But the man of the house did the unthinkable. He threw his phone at me and told me to watch the video. What I saw almost made my heart stop. I tried explaining to him and apologizing, but instead the guy just gave the greatest slap of them all. I couldn't believe it, you know. I was so shocked and my mind and whole body just froze. He literally told me that he had thought I was different, but I was worse than his previous girlfriends. He was so angry to a point that he even called me names and said that I had gone to that party to get those men's attention, and that was why I was wearing a skimpy and revealing outfit. I felt so disrespected by Thomas, but because I knew that I was the one at fault, I decided not to pay attention to it, and humbled myself and apologized for my behavior. I told him that I didn't know that he was coming back on that day, and I had wanted to get some fresh air because I was tired of always being cooped up in the house. We argued a lot to the point that he told me that if I had used my thick skull, I would have known that he was coming back because he had called me so many times, but I was unreachable. He told me that I had disappointed him, and he would make sure that I regret ever going out of the house and went to that party because he was going to make me feel the pain that he was also feeling. I wondered what he would do because it's not like I had cheated on him or something. Or maybe I did, because on the video it showed me kissing with some guy that I don't even remember while another was holding me on my waist and spanking my ass. But is that even cheating? Another thing I don't even remember doing until Thomas showed me the video. It was so embarrassing and humiliating, I had wished for the ground to open up and swallow me at that moment. After our heated argument, he told me to pack my bags and move out of his house. I was so shocked by his sudden decision. I begged him while crying, kicking and apologizing, but he was hearing none of it. He even insisted to help me pack and told me that he won't be in a relationship and even live with a cheap person who goes around allowing other men to spank her and kiss her and say she was drunk. I just couldn't believe Thomas. I tried talking to him in a civilized manner, but he didn't want to hear it. He wanted me gone. I went to our bedroom and packed my clothes. I told him that I was going because I wanted him to calm down and talk about the issue in a civilized and mature manner. Instead of answering me, he just looked at me like I was the most disgusting thing that he had seen. That really broke my heart. I went back home with a heavy heart. I just couldn't believe that the only man who had shown me genuine love had given up on me and dumped me like a used toilet paper. It was really a rough time for me because weeks passed and I had heard nothing from Thomas. I even tried calling him hoping that he would answer, but it seemed like he had blocked my number. During those weeks, I had decided to log on to my social media platform, and maybe I would find him online so I could speak to him. But to my surprise, I was met by the same video from the party, and there was a caption that said, "Sometimes we fall in love with people thinking they are the one, only for us to find out after years of being together that the person you love is actually a snake in a sheep's skin. After this, I'm never going to forgive her, and I don't think I would ever be in any relationship again." That caption took the last straw of being patient and hoping that my man would somehow get back to me. It drove me straight to depression. I had not only broken my relationship, but I had also broken the heart of the man that loved me and has been there for me when no one was. The only man who knew me when I was down, happy, or stressed. I had jeopardized that, and it got destroyed because of my stupidity. 2 months later, my mother called our church pastor to pray for me, then got me a virtual therapist because I didn't want to face the world. I had my therapy sessions while at home. Yes, my mother was very disappointed at me when she heard that I had gone to a men's party and not intentionally cheated on my fiancé. She got angry at me and gave me a silent treatment for a week. My breakup with Thomas really shattered me, and to top it up, the video that he had posted on his timeline and the caption almost drove me to an early grave. I didn't know the damage that I had done to Thomas's heart until I read that caption. He hated me. Well, I think he still hates me. 1 month later, I had started to heal. I knew that somehow I had to move on and try to live with the fact that what happened had happened, and there was nothing I would do to change it. My mother convinced me to start focusing more on my catering business that I had abandoned for years. My mother was the one taking care of my business, and I am so grateful to her. My relationship with Thomas made me forget some of the things that were putting food on the table. From that day forward, I learned the value of balance and considering the impact of my actions on others. While it's important to let loose and have fun, it's equally important to be responsible and mindful of those who care about us. I'm still on the healing journey, even though it's really hard having to get my heart to move on from Thomas. How do I deal with this?